One of the things that we tend to do when we're going through that whole syndrome of the grass being greener is that we are really projecting a lot on our spouse, and we're seeing all of their negativity and we're not looking at ourselves. It's easier to pick apart everything about other people. It's a lot more work to do the same thing for myself.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Matters. This is a podcast where we talk about marriage matters because
marriage matters.
If you're watching for the very first time, my name is Glenn Coleman, and this beautiful woman in the yellow. Have I told you look good in yellow?
You have not.
You look good in yellow.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Coleman.
That's what she is. She's my wife.
I am his wife.
She's my wife of 21, almost 22 years.
Yes, sir.
And wouldn't have it any other way.
Me either.
And enjoy doing life with you. So, all right. So we got that out of the way. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Today's a good day. It's
been
productive.
Today was really good. I got a lot done
Productive
today.
and slow, if that can make sense. Like it's easy.
Yeah.
Productivity. Easy productivity. I think I like that.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. I'm glad you're having a productive day. This week we want to, before we jump into this week's topic, we want to do a viewer highlight.
Yes.
And so this week's viewer highlight is none other than
Miss Alicia Alfred.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. That's my cousin.
Yeah.
And let me say something. You know, people are like, well, you going to highlight your cousin? Of course I am, because you know why? Not everybody can say that their family supports them.
Right. She don't have to
You know what I'm saying? And usually it'd be your own people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's like, when Jesus went to his hometown to preach, ain't nobody came.
Yeah.
And the Bible says he couldn't hear nobody, except for a few sick folk. That's what the Bible says.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much, cousin, for supporting.
Thank you, cousin Leisha.
Yeah.
But this is what she said. This was from last week's episode, actually. She said, wow, I listened to this on my way to work this morning. Absolutely awesome, profound word. Thank you so much, cousin Leisha, for your support, for watching, for your feedback. And again, just because we're related don't mean you gotta watch.
That's
so we
right.
appreciate it.
And that means so much.
Absolutely.
So much.
We have actually a lot of family support, which is
and
pretty
here's
awesome.
the other thing about family supporting you.
Uh-huh.
Because see, family, they know.
You know you, huh?
They know. It's like, whoo. I was listening to something the other day, and they were talking about their scripture, and it's naming all these things, and they were lying, backbiters, all these horrible. Some I ain't gonna say some of the stuff they said, but then he says, and such were some of you. So it's like your family know that such were some of you. Right. Praise
Especially
the Lord. Alicia and Nett, because she's more like her and Nett were more like sisters.
Yeah.
And there were some. They know. They have the key to the closet. I'll just say that. Anyway, let me get off of that. But thank you so much for watching. And every week we want to give you a tip, trick.
I don't know why my face always itches when I get on this podcast. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You allergic to the podcast?
No, I'm not allergic to the podcast.
Okay.
It could be I don't know. Go
okay. But yeah, each week we want to give you a tip, trick, or a tool. And I guess this would be a tip and a trick this week.
Okay.
FaceTime. And no, I'm not talking about the app on your phone. I'm talking about actual FaceTime with your significant other. There are so many times where, we do the side by side. We do, we're riding in a car together. We're laying in bed next to each other. We're going through life. But when was the last time you actually stopped and looked into your significant other's eyes? Just looked, gazed, When was the last time you did that? So I would give you a tip or a trick. I would say just try that, maybe even for a few minutes. Just spend some time actually face to face talking to each other and not just talking, watching TV or, all the other things we can do.
Right.
Face to face, FaceTime.
Intentional,
yes,
intimate conversation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah, so that's this week's tip, trick, or tool. All right.
I like it.
You like it?
I like it.
All right, so now let's get into this week's topic. This week, I wanted to talk about the grass ain't greener.
You say?
It ain't. It's not. Well, it may be, but let's talk about it. So I want to start this conversation off by saying this, and if you've watched us or listened to us for any amount of time,
lengthy amount of time,
that this conversation today is not talking about like toxic situations,
sure,
bad situations. We're not telling you to stay in a toxic, abusive situation. That's not what we're saying. But what I do want to talk about is, when things are getting hard. When I say hard, I don't mean, again, I'm not talking about toxic. I'm just saying maybe things are not going your way, or the fairy tale dream of a marriage or a fairy tale dream of a relationship that you had because you watched The Notebook. And you thought that that's how it was going to be.
Right.
You're not getting that, and you just want to check out of this relationship. That's what we're talking about today. Or when you think they got it better. And when they, them, them and they, they got
Facebook
it,
and Instagram,
quote unquote,
and
better.
Neighbors up the street. Yeah.
They got it better than you. And, even now I'm thinking of a relationship. And in this relationship, I remember someone saying about this relationship how lucky they should feel because of the way this person, the person in the relationship, treated them and showered them with the gifts and all of that. But at the end of the day, they had a lot of issues going on. And so again, the grass ain't greener, right? And so I want to talk about the 10% rule.
Okay.
Or the iceberg rule. And, we use the iceberg a lot.
Right.
It's part of our logo for whole life.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know what the iceberg represents, the iceberg represents, it's only 10% of an iceberg is above water.
Right.
And so that could apply to so many things with like in counseling. A lot of times we try to address the symptom or the action, but that's only the 10%.
Right.
The 90% below the water is what's really driving that behavior, driving that.
People only come in to counseling and coaching sessions with 10%.
Yeah.
So they'll come in with, we have communication issues.
Yes, that's a great example. But it's something deeper.
There's something deeper that's going on.
Yeah.
And it takes some time to begin to really kind of pull back the layers on that. And, that's because of building rapport and those kinds of things. But typically people come in thinking they're coming for one reason. And once we really dig in, there's a lot of things happening under the surface. It's kind of like pulling moving a big rock. How when you do that sometimes outside and there's worms and bugs and all kind of stuff moving, all kind of life happening underneath that you don't see just by looking at that rock.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this also is a principle for the grass is greener because here's why, because people only show you 10% of their life.
Only show you 10%.
I always say Instagram is only 10%.
Listen. They
don't show you. And I remember I had said this on another podcast, how, people show these pictures on Facebook, and 10 minutes before that picture, they were arguing and fighting and fussing and complaining. And someone told me that was us. We had posted this picture and everybody was commenting on how great it was. But they were like, man, to be honest with you, we were fussing. Get this, they were fussing and arguing about taking the picture. And they posted the picture and everybody's like, oh, it's so beautiful. The picture came out great.
And we all mad on the inside.
So when you look at that and you're like, man, I wish, or why can't we just? So
that comparison is the thief of joy. Like we just need to stop.
Yes. So, the 10%, people only show you the good. People don't show you the the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a scene in this movie, one of my favorite movies, My Cousin Vinny. But he's talking about how, I'm just gonna say what he said because it's a great example. It's like, he's talking about the prosecutor is gonna try to build his case. So it's like he said, building a case is like building a wall. He's like, and they're gonna show you the bricks and they're nice and even and they're square and they're the right shape. He said, but what you don't know is when you turn the brick to the side, it's paper thin. And that's how a lot of people's lives are. It's like when you see it for face value, it looks great. But when you turn it to the side,
there's no depth.
There's no depth to it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we want to talk about. So for me, in our relationship, the grass is greener syndrome, one of the things that when I really started to look at me, I found that a lot of times it wasn't that the grass was greener, it was just me. It was the way I was seeing my grass, and it was the way I was seeing the other people's grass. So I was the problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you address that?
And we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
So when you leave this situation for the other situation, and again, we're not talking about toxic situations. We're not talking about, people get divorced, people separate for just
many different
reasons. Now, like I said, we're not talking about toxic. We're not talking about abusive. But when you leave a situation, many times when you get to the other place, you find out, man, this not what I want either.
They ain't right either.
And it's like that. Not only in relationships, it's like with jobs. It's like that with schools. It's like that with all these other things. And I always say this: if you've been in 5 relationships in 5 years, you may want to stop looking at the other person, and because there's what's the common denominator
Correct.
in those 5 relationships?
Correct.
The common denominator is me.
Correct.
Right? So you may want to start looking at that. Or sometimes when you realize the grass is greener, or when you leave this situation to go to the other, then you get over there and you realize why the grass is greener. The grass is greener because they're putting the effort in. They're watering the grass. They're fertilizing the grass. They're weed eating the grass.
So you know more about doing the grass than me. So
and I watch one thing right now. My yard doesn't look great, but one thing that I do pride myself on is my grass. I love to have a good. And that's the thing is like that takes effort, it takes work. And, I think I cut in the summer, in the spring, I cut my grass once every week. I don't do every other week. I do every week. And I put the time in.
Sometimes twice a week.
Sometimes twice. Yeah. It just depends. But I love to drive up to my yard and see green grass. I love to see the manicured lawn. I love that. I just love to see that. But a lot of people, they want that, but they don't want that because they're not willing to do what it takes. You know what I'm saying? I would love to look like The Rock. I don't know if would you love me to look like The Rock?
If you like.
Okay, what about, no, I'm not going to say nobody else.
Oh, Lord. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
But I've watched The Rock work out. And I am not willing to do that.
As long as you are able to locate yourself, sir.
I am not willing to do that. Right? And so, but my point is like, I'm looking over and I'm like, oh man, I would love to have that kind of body and that kind of physique. But I really don't because I'm not willing to do what it takes. And it's the same way in a relationship sometimes. I think you don't know what it takes.
Right.
And a lot of people are not willing to do. They want the great relationship. They want all of the
of what they see on the outside,
right? Because
they don't know what's happening on the inside.
Exactly.
All they see is what's on the surface. They see the clothes, they see the house, they see the vehicles, but they don't know what's happening indoors once the doors are closed and locked for the night. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that we tend to do when we're going through that whole syndrome of the grass being greener is that we are really projecting a lot on our spouse, and we're seeing all of their negativity, and we're not looking at ourselves. And I was listening to another podcast this morning, and, he said, one of the guys on the podcast said that it's easier, right? It's easier to pick apart everything about other people. It's a lot more work to do the same thing for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I call it the if he or she would just syndrome.
Correct.
Because
that's good.
And I'm guilty of that. If Tanya would just if she would just do this, then
my life would be perfect.
My life would be so much better. And then what I found is you do that, and then you're like, dang, well, maybe she also need to do this. And then my life would be, so, you can't be stuck. And that's the blame. It's like, I had to learn to take responsibility for my life, because this is the thing.
Yourself, Linda.
As long as I'm blaming someone else, I am giving them the power to control my life. And the sad part about that is most of the time, the people that you're giving power over your life to don't even know that they have the power. So it's just like your life is not going to change. Or if it does change, it's going to change in the way they want it to change and not the way you want it to change.
And they usually do not want the power. Now, most of the time, I'm not going to say all of the time, because you got some narcissism going on in the world. But most of the time, people don't want control over your life. They want, like, your partner, your wife, your spouse wants you to step up and be fully yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of times. Sometimes people can't handle that. But I'm saying in a healthy dynamic, you know what I mean? I don't want you to hold back. I don't want to control, what you're doing. I want you to be full blown yourself. And that gives me permission to do the same. Why are you smirking? You about to laugh at me?
No, I was just thinking of something. An example I was going to use.
Oh, but yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No. Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. No, all of that was good. But what I was going to say next was that the blame thing. And that's what when you look at the story of the garden, with Adam, I was like. God's like, what happened, Adam? And Adam says, well, it was the wife you gave me. And a lot of us have, my wife would just, we would be in a better. And then, so I don't know if God turned and looked at Eve. He was like, well, it was the serpent.
Right. He stood there and didn't say nothing.
She blamed the serpent.
You're right. She did. She blamed the serpent.
He said this and this and this. And we don't want to take responsibility.
Right.
For us. And so I had to learn. I was laughing because, speaking of my cousin Alicia, we have another cousin, my cousin Kevin Alfred, shout out to Kev. But I remember like when we used to play basketball in high school, and like I remember this one time we were in the locker room and coach was chewing us out. And coach was talking to somebody else about something that Kevin had done. And Kevin goes, "That was me, sir. It was me." And it was so funny the way he said it. And you just had to be there. Yeah. But we got to be like Kevin.
Right.
We got to take responsibility. I let that man score. That was me. Right. I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
Kevin said, I'm owning it.
I'm owning it. That was me. But that put you in a powerful position, in a powerful situation.
It truly
because
does.
Now when I take responsibility, now I can do something about it. So there's this really cool graphic. And I don't know, I may put it up. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna put it up because I may forget to put it up. But anyway, it shows you it's this circle and it says in my control. And it's showing you all the things that are in your control. And what's in this, here's some of the things it says: my positive attitude, my inner peace, what I eat and how I stay healthy, finding creative and different ways to make money.
That's
my productivity, my relationships with friends and family. So man, this is speaking to me. If you find yourself always complaining, like I'm not making enough money, I'm not, really you could do something about that.
Correct.
You can get another job. You can get a side hustle. You can have an online store. You can be a drop shipper for just hundreds of ways you can make, you know what I'm saying? So these are things that are in my control. So focus, I had to learn from me. And even in our relationship, I had to learn to focus on what I could control, and things that are out of my control. Some of the things that list is what others think of me.
Yeah.
I cannot help what others think of me.
Nope.
There are going to be people that just don't like you.
For whatever reason. Because you're too nice.
But I can't.
Pretty. You know.
I was. There was this post on Twitter about Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast gives away literally millions of dollars, and this last thing he did, he paid for like 1,000 people to have corrective eye surgery. Wow. I'm like, Lord bless me indeed.
Yes.
But somebody was like, something demonic about that, to be able to do that for that many people. I'm like, golly. I mean,
why do you have to find good deeds demonic? What's demonic about it?
So, what other people think, how other people feel, other people's motives. I can't control that. External situations and what happens around us, the future, the past, the beliefs and perceptions of others, what others say. Those are things I can't control. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Finish.
No,
finish
that's all. Go ahead.
And here's what I wanted to say about that. So when we find ourselves trying to control what other people think of me, trying to control, how people feel, whether that's about me or about any other situation, but we make it our business. Like, I want to make sure I say the right thing. I want to make sure I do the right thing because I don't want them to think or feel. Well, you are trying to control the outcomes. And when people, for people who are what we call controlling, right? Most of those people, and when we find ourselves doing that type of behavior, struggle with a great deal of anxiety. You have a need to control the outcomes because you are protecting yourself from being hurt, from being disappointed, for being whatever. And that's typically coming from some past issues. Like, we always wound up back to this place, right? Healing your past hurt is going to be, and your past hurt could have happened yesterday. It's going to be important for you to process that, because when you're talking about what's in my control, and I'm looking at these things that are outside of your control, I know some people that try to control those things that are outside of their control. I've had that issue at times, but it's typically coming from a place of anxiousness and a place of anxiety, you know?
And for me, what I found is that when I do focus on what I can control, that's when I truly can determine the outcome.
Correct.
That's when because again, all that other stuff, I really can't control, and I don't know what the outcome is going to be, right? So that's the next thing I want to talk about. So here's some things that I had to work on, and this was my watering, my feeding, my weeding, my fertilizing for my own life, my own mind, my own heart, my own emotions, as it pertains to in our relationship. And for me, the first thing was perfectionism. And when I say perfectionism, it's like not just things perfect, but things perfect my way.
Say that again.
Not just things perfect, but things perfect my way. So it's like I have a certain way, I like to do things. I have a certain way. I want to see back then when we had checkbooks. There's a certain way I balance the checkbook, or there's a certain way I manage money. There's a certain way I like the house clean. There's a certain way I like, Lord Jesus, there's a certain way I like the cars to be clean.
I think he's triggered.
Okay. But what I was doing was I was really holding myself and those people, mainly to unrealistic expectations, constantly finding fault in the way you do it, because my way was so perfect and so good and so right that your way had to be wrong. There's no way your way could be wrong, because your way, that's what I mean. There's no way your way could be right because your way is polar opposite of my way. And I know I'm right.
So somebody has to be wrong.
So somebody got to be wrong. It ain't me. So there's only one other person in this relationship. So that's something that I had to work on. And so one of the things, and I remember this, and I was dealing with the girls, because I mean, this not only was with you, but it bled over with the girls, and I was dealing with the girls, and they had did something, and of course, got on them. And here's what God asked me. He said, what if I treated you that way every time you did something other than I told you to do? You didn't do something I told you to do, or you did something that was contrary to my best for you. What if I treated you the way you're treating them? And I was like, whew, well, and so what he was teaching me though was grace. Yeah. He was teaching me how to give myself grace and how to give others grace. And so that really helped me, curtail, it helped me to get out of that grass is greener. Because again, I was in that mode of, if you would just do it this way. Right. Our life would be so much better if you would just do it this way.
I think the whole grass is greener thing goes back to perspective also, because I can look down the road and it looks like my neighbor's grass is lush and green and just beautiful. And I'm standing in my yard and it's wet and it's yucky and mud and all of this kind of stuff. Well, if I take a walk down the road, I'm actually going to see that their grass is also muddy and yucky because of the rain that we've been having and that kind of thing. When for example, with the vehicles. So when the kids were younger and I had them most of the time, it was very difficult to manage two little ones, who are probably snacking in the car between school and whatever else we had going on, to manage just getting them in and out and clean up behind them at the same time right away. You know what I'm saying? But that was my perspective because that was my experience. You were getting in and out of the car most of the time by yourself. So yeah, the expectation is that when you get out, the car is going to be clean. It's going to be the way you found it. But when I get out from, a young mom's perspective, I'm just trying to get two people in this house and with, all my hair still in my head, know?
And that's the other point of this, like with perfectionism, is to understand it's not humanly possible to maintain that pace and that standard in life. You cannot live at that standard. You just can't. You talked about young mothers. There's no way you're going to be able to keep the house clean and go to work and cook and have the clothes washed and
be full of energy and lively and joyful and all of that.
You can't do that. So I have to realize, like you said, right now, even though I love my yard to look a certain way, especially our backyard right now, it's a mess just because it's been raining almost every day. So, it doesn't matter. Again, that's out of my control.
Correct.
So what can I be? What's in my control? I tell you what, and this is we're going to talk about this later, but gratefulness. I'm grateful
so good.
that I even have a backyard. How about that?
Yes.
I'm grateful for that. So
truly.
So that's the first thing I had to work on was perfectionism. The second thing was the preoccupation with the future. And what I found is that when you're preoccupied with the future or the grass is that's part of that grass is greener in the future it'll be better, or is that you miss out on the now. You miss out on the now.
Yes, that's so true. That's an area I've had to work on. Yeah, that's good. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the thing about it is the now. How do you said it? You said the days are long, but the years are short. Short. Our oldest daughter is getting ready to go to college, and so it's like, man, and people always say it goes fast, but you don't realize how fast it goes until
you feel the long days. Yeah. You don't see the years.
You think it's never going to end. But so so always focus. And I'm not saying you shouldn't plan.
Absolutely.
But there should not be a preoccupation.
Correct.
And
keep your feet to the ground.
Yeah. So be present. It removes you from the positivity of your current life. Just like I said, if I'm thinking toward the summer for my lawn and how it's going to be, I'm missing out on the positivity of what's happening now.
Right.
The positivity is the ground is getting the nutrients and the water it needs to produce the grass. It's going through this season in the winter where the things are dying off to make way for the new fresh green grass. So it's
and we have the promise of that the season is going to change.
Yeah. So
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. So don't allow a preoccupation with the future to remove you from the positivity of your current life. The next thing, and you said it, is constant comparison.
Yes. Comparison is the thief of joy. It will, when you compare, I don't care if it is another person's marriage, their friendship circle, their job, what they're driving, where they live. If you're comparing your life to theirs, if you are in that mindset of doing so, you are promised to find something negative about your life. It is going to show up shorter than this other person's, right? And when that happens, then your joy is sucked out. Instead of being grateful for the fact that I have a roof over my head, you're preoccupied with, well, so-and-so's roof is taller than mine and they have more bedrooms under their roof than I do. You know what? There's a man standing at Walmart waving his hands trying to get people's attention to give him some money or buy him some lunch today. And he doesn't have a roof.
And you may not know what it takes to sustain that 5-bedroom. You
may not know what it takes to sustain.
You may not want to do what it takes to sustain that 5-bedroom roof.
And so that comparison piece and culturally it has become an epidemic. Like, this is what people do on social media all the time. And this is why now we're seeing a lot of people with they're not feeling as passionate or productive because they're watching what people are posting on social media, and in their mind, like, they just started this and now they're millionaires and I feel like I'm not doing anything. Like, no, like, work what you're supposed to be working, what God placed in your hands to work, and stop comparing, which is why sometimes we just need to take a break and we need to get off, of that, because it steals your joy. We have, and it's not just teenagers who are comparing themselves to one another on social media. Adults do it all the time, and so we just have to really learn contentment and joy and gratitude and all of those things, and really embrace truly that what God has for me is for me, whether that's in my marriage,
amen, sister,
in my bank account, with my children, whatever. What God has for me is for me.
Yeah, and I guess this leads into the next thing that I had to work on is ingratitude. But I'll say it this way, is contentment. And one of my favorite scriptures is godliness with contentment is great gain.
Yes, it is.
And I think I've cut, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I don't desire things, but I think I'm at a place in my life where my contentment tank is, I'm not gonna say it's full, but it's getting pretty close. And this is no brag or nothing, but Tanya can tell you, a lot of times she asks me, when it comes to my birthday or Father's Day or Christmas, and she's like, babe, what do you want? And I'm like,
it's so hard to buy.
It's like, I really don't know. There's nothing else, outside of, a Tesla, I really want a Tesla.
There's nothing you can go buy for him at the mall. He's like,
Mr. Beast, Mr. Beast, if you're watching this, I want a Tesla. Give me a Tesla.
Right.
No, but I just really, there's nothing.
Right.
Because my value is really in you and my family and in God. And I'm really coming to a place in my life where I'm like, because again, nothing wrong with wanting more, but I don't need more. Because that's the difference now in my life. And if I don't, and again, I always laugh at a lot of these old sayings and these old songs that you hear, growing up. You hear people say in church, but as you get older, you begin to understand it. And I used to hear people say, if God never does anything else for me, hey, glory.
Hallelujah.
If he never does anything else, then I'm fine with that because he's already done enough. And I'm at that place, is like,
Yeah.
Man,
That song, when you said that, a song immediately came to mind. Remember that song, I've Got His Joy? I've got his joy.
Oh, yeah. Pastor Norman wrote that song.
Yes, he did.
Shout out to P. Norman, Dr. Dibby. Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, yeah, that's I've got his joy.
Yeah. I mean, and there's nothing else. So that's another thing that I had to work on is contentment and gratitude and just being content. And so I guess the last piece of this is, how do you get over the grass is greener mentality? I would say I always start with the why, the root of the why, because there's a reason why
the root of the
you're
why.
always, and Tanya talked about some of that, talking about comparison. Comparison usually is a result of something that you're lacking.
Right.
And whether that's you're not loving yourself or experiencing love or something. So really spending the time with yourself, with God, or someone, a counselor. If you're looking for a counselor, I recommend this lady, really great lady, and she's fine too. Her name is Tanya Coleman, and she's the owner of Whole Life Coaching and Counseling. You need to get with her. But anyway, getting to the why. Why do I see things this way?
Right.
Why do I always run away or back out when things get hard, or when things don't go my way?
Or when people get too close. Too.
Yeah, or when people get too close. Yeah, and that's one of the things that, we try to teach our girls. Like, we have this rule that if you're going to start something, you have to do a season of it. So
finish the season.
If you're gonna do ballet, if you're gonna do tennis, if you're gonna do gymnastics, you can't just quit just because things get, because you don't want to. I don't want them to develop that pattern in their life, because things are going to be hard. Marriage be hard. Shout out to Kevin and Melissa Fredericks.
Yes.
So and I'm not saying that marriage is like this dreadful. That's not.
No, and I don't think that's not the hard. The hard is that it is work.
Yeah,
you can't just sit back and just let stuff happen.
It's the work. So my point is, you got to get to the root of the why. Why do I feel this way? Number 2 is, and this is so simple, but gratefulness. Gratefulness is such a empowering thing, and so I would challenge you to maybe get a notebook or some cards or something. Maybe like do a month, or let's just start with a week. Do a week of gratefulness. And every day that you wake up, write down 5 things that you're grateful for.
Yeah, that's good.
And you can't reuse.
Right.
Every day it's something different.
Right. And go deeper than, I'm grateful for my life and for my family. Like, yeah, be grateful for that, but begin to dig deeper, And
I'll say, sometimes it's okay to stay at the surface just for this, because here's the deal. There's so many things that, I am grateful for that pillow. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have to have that pillow. That pillow serves no purpose other than decoration.
Thank you.
It looks good, but that's what I'm saying. It's no, like, we have on our bed.
Oh, Lord.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pillows. There are 11 pillows.
Ladies, back me up.
On our bed. And I'm not complaining about it.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, we don't have to have 11 pillows, but we have 11 pillows.
Yeah,
I'm grateful for these pillows.
Oh, good. I thought you was coming for my pillows.
No, I'm just saying.
Understand.
You have so many reasons to be grateful. Yeah, there's some people who don't have one pillow.
Correct.
Right? So gratefulness. The other thing is mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is being aware of everything. Is being aware and really grounding yourself in your life.
It's being present.
Being present, yes.
Yeah, feeling your feet on the ground.
Yes.
Feeling your toes moving when you move them around. Feeling your butt sitting in the chair. Like literally, because we miss all of these little things. And so we begin to retrain our minds to be grounded in these moments. So when my children come home from school and they want to tell me about their day and they're rambling on about so-and-so who I have no idea who so-and-so is, I can be grounded in that moment and look at them in their eyes while they're talking and really be present with them, right? They feel my presence when you come home from work and I greet you. I can really be present with you for the time frame that we are catching up in that moment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mindfulness. And the last thing is being open, honest, often. We always talk about this. In other words, you need to have that conversation. And I know that can be hard because that for me, I really had to work on that when I'm not feeling, when I am going through the grass is greener. Just being open. It's like I just really feel, or I just don't feel, I feel blah today. I just really, I don't feel it. I don't feel it today, and having that conversation with your spouse and for the person that's hearing that, don't judge. Correct. Because typically when we hear that, then a lot of times we automatically think it's, well, man, you're not pleased with me. No, that's not what I said. Right. I'm just not, I'm not feeling it
I'm not feeling the day.
So those are just some things for me that I did to help me get over the grass is green. Oh, I put another one. I learned this. I was listening to Tim Ross's podcast and the guy on there, he was like, you got to be, he's like, I'm always hot with my wife.
I noticed that acronym. I'm like, what is hot?
Hot. Honest, open, and transparent.
I love it. I like
so that's what he's like, I got a hot wife. Then he said, and my kids are hot. And my pastor's hot. And everybody, he's like, whoa, but it's the acronym.
The honest,
open, and transparent.
I like it. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So man, look, the grass ain't greener.
It ain't greener.
It ain't greener.
If you get close enough, you'll see.
And here's the deal. I believe this. This is my life is the grass that God gave me.
I need to fertilize it.
And when I stand before God, I don't have to give an account for anybody else's grass but mine. Amen. Right? And so I want to make sure that, this is a metaphor. God is not going to ask you about your grass. That's not this. This is a metaphor, but I want to be able to say my sidewalks were edged and crisp. I want to say my grass was green and lush and plush. I want to say that there were no weeds. There were, so my point is, do the work to get over that, because that is not, God doesn't want us to live life like that. That's a very miserable life. Always comparing and never enjoying the life that you have. Live in the moment, be present, be mindful, be grateful.
So good. Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that was very good. You challenged me. I have some work to do this week.
We all do. We all do. So that's all we got for you this week. Remember, if you are watching this, you can listen to it. If you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, on Spotify, Anchor, pretty much everywhere podcasts are found, you can find us. If you're listening to it, you can watch this on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. You can find us at Marriage Matters 0526. And if you do need somebody to talk to, if you need help in any area, you can reach out to Whole Life Coaching
Solutions. The number is 337-502-8669, or you can go to our website, wholelifecoachingandcounseling.com.
Yep. And book your first 15-minute free consultation. Yes. So anyway, that's how you can get at us. It came out too fast. My brain and my tongue got disconnected there.
You know what it is?
What is it?
Oh, no, it's not. That was yesterday.
What?
I was going to say Glenn Sr. was saying, hey, yesterday was his birthday.
Today is his birthday.
Today is the 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was the 2nd.
Happy birthday. Well, today,
heavenly birthday.
Airing is not his birthday.
Right. But the day that we're recording.
Yeah, so today is his birthday.
Yeah.
That's all we got for you. Anything else?
No, sir.
Well, this is Glenn and Tanya Coleman reminding you that
your marriage matters.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.